Yeah, so funny you mention that. So I'm personally looking at the moment for a warehouse on the Northern Beaches. And when I'm looking at comparables, I found those exact two cases. So one of the exact comparables I saw, the square meter rate for sale was really high. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, sorry, for rental was really high. And then I actually looked at it and it was a warehouse that's now a Watso share office. So they've done exactly that. They've realized they get a really good square meter rate by having lots of tenants effectively. And they've done that. And then the other one, because it's in Brookvale, there's about 5 or 6 breweries there. So they're all doing the same thing as well. They're converting either, some of them are retail. So some are like a retail shop fronty type one where they put the brewery out the back in a shed. And other ones are the big classic like industrial. But this is what I like about commercial is you do have options. Like it's also what makes it complicated. But when you've got a 3 or 4 bedroom house, like some people will claim, oh yeah, you can do like micro dwellings, put in some bathrooms, make it a share house and you can up the yield a little bit, but you're not changing the dial that much, nor are you changing the valuation. The bank won't come back and go, oh, because this is shared accommodation now, we're going to give you 20% more. But if you get 20% more rent in commercial, you've actually upped the price.
Yeah.
What's your viewpoint on that? Sorry, Jared. What's your viewpoint on those share houses? Like, I look at, like, if you're going for the income play, you're better off just going down the commercial route. Because from a valuer's perspective, I valued a few of them back in the day, and you bang on. You still have to. It's low density residential, so you have to value it as a residential property. So you don't really get any increase in value.
I'm a bit tainted because I hear the horror stories of them. People rarely call me up to buy commercial and say, oh, I've done great from this, that's why I'm going to commercial. The main issue is the people that are kind of selling them to you, that you don't get 100% occupancy because they're short-term lets. You constantly got an influx of people, which means so you might have, say, an 80% occupancy rate. So where they're like, oh, you get 50% more rent, you're not. You're actually only getting, say, 30% more rent. But in addition to that, you've spent quite a lot of money fitting out the multiple bathrooms and kitchenettes and all that type of stuff. But the biggest one I also find is maintenance is an absolute killer because you've got a constant flow of people. They just get grubbier generally and you have to replace the carpet more. So they make a little bit of money, but it's for the extra money you've put into it, I would rather put into another asset and leverage because that's the game of property is leverage.
I want to ask around. Yeah, I agree with you. Leverage is the way to go, and value adds are leverage, right? And would you say, in general terms, that I know it's going to be very general here because you could do so many, like you said before, there's so many things you can do to so many different types of property in commercial, and there's really no boundaries. Would you say though that industrial probably has more value add opportunities than maybe retail or office?
No, not necessarily. I would say that it has easier value adds, and we'll go into some of them later. Before I don't want to kind of ramble off now. It's just a bit easier because it is an empty shell and there's no sort of emotion in it. Office space, that's probably the least amount of value add because besides the tenant, you can't really do much. There's some rent, like raising rents and stuff like that, but besides the tenant, you can't actually do much. Retail, surprisingly, there's a little bit more in regards to the actual property itself. So I'll go into that later. Actually, I've got my dot points of value adds, and that'll kind of.
Let's go through your dot points of value adds. Have you got them categorized into each different industrial, retail, office, or?
No, they're just general, but I'll talk about like industrial and retail and how they kind of affect each one.